It's the summer of 2018. I was scrolling through Twitter and came across this new brand, a sub brand of Xiaomi called POCO and their first phone, the POCO F1. I went through the specs, great. Then I looked at the pricing and my jaw hit the floor. A flagship Snapdragon chip, a beautiful display albeit with a huge notch, good cameras, expandable storage, and simple design. All this for a starting price of 20,999. Everyone was hyped and boy did they deliver, and just like that, it was worth all the hype. 3 years later, there is no true successor to the POCO F1. Yes, there have been follow-up models in the POCO F series, but none of them matched up to the value or performance the F1 offered. Let alone POCO, no other brand could bring another phone to the market with similar value. Why couldn't the brands capture the lightning in the bottle again? What happened to the flagship killers, and will there be another POCO F1? I'm your host Ananthan, and in today's video, let's try to find answers for all these questions. Okay, before we go full Sherlock, let's see what makes the F1 such a good phone to begin with. It was announced at a time when the Indian smartphone market was booming and people started getting a little tech savvy. Thanks to companies like OnePlus and Xiaomi bringing really good phones and also tech YouTubers raising more awareness, a lot of young audiences were eager to upgrade to the best with all the newfound knowledge. It was the perfect recipe for success. Bring a phone that does a lot of things well at a decent price rather than a flagship that achieves the best at a premium. And Xiaomi did just that with the POCO F1. It had a headphone jack, a thing which flagship has started omitting after Apple did. It had expandable storage, whereas flagship had a price premium on higher storage variants. And the cameras with Gcam worked like magic for a 20K phone. It had all this while offering flagship performance without breaking the bank, and the rest is history. Now, let's see why there aren't such phones ruling the market. First off, flagship design started getting crazier. Foldable phones have started to enter the markets. Phones came with insanely good displays. There are phones coming out with crazy camera tech. Putting all this fancy tech into a slim and premium looking flagship phone costs a lot of money, and flagship phones did get costlier. With the release of the iPhone 10, the $1,000 barrier was broken and other companies started following suit. To be a flagship killer in this kind of environment, a phone has to be made really well. And a well made phone with the killer specs is gonna end up costing a buttload of money. Add to this the issue of silicon shortage around the world due to ever increasing demand and low supply, making a true budget flagship killer becomes a Herculean task. Next up, we have brands like Xiaomi and Realme getting greedy and trying to confuse the consumers. Let me explain myself here. Instead of making one great phone at different price points, these companies have followed Samsung's plan of oversaturating the market with phones. But unlike Samsung, Xiaomi and Realme have branched out into sub brands and started releasing different phones with mind numbingly similar specs in very close price brackets. Instead of building and developing a good lineup of phones under one brand, companies got busy in launching sub brands to boost their sales. Don't believe me? Let's just look at Xiaomi following this pattern here in India. First up, they launched the Mi series phones. Their first phone, the Mi 3, was a smashing success. They continued to sell the Mi 4 and the 5 series phones in India for a time. But then they decided to aggressively boost the Redmi brand and completely abandon the Mi flagship series without any proper successor and an alternative flagship for the Indian market. Even after the smashing success of the POCO F1, they never bothered to follow up with their global POCO launches until the F3 GT. They did the same with the Redmi K Series phones. After the huge success of the K20 and the K20 Pro, they simply stopped bringing the new K series phones to India. Granted, they brought the K40 lineup as the Mi 11X series, but it only meant that the K series is officially dead. We can't talk about the flagship killers without mentioning OnePlus One. For all intents and purposes, that was the first flagship killer. That was a phone that shook up the smartphone world and introduced us to the term flagship killer. Even OnePlus could never recreate the same magic with any of their other phones. Not that they didn't make good phones after that one, it's just that they had to make safer choices and thus settling for boring phone. See what I did there? Okay, never mind. I am in no way saying that you gotta go run and buy a POCO F1 in today's day and age. That would be a dumb thing to do. That's not the intention of this video. Neither is it to say that there were no new good phones after the F1. It's just that we see few devices so rarely create such an impact that changed the course of the market and smartphone history entirely. And the POCO F1 is one of them. Plain and simple. It's just that looking back into the past and revisiting these pieces of tech reminds us how good they were. Do you guys agree with what I have to say? Or is there any other such phone that you think is better than the POCO F1? Don't be afraid. Go on, let us know in the comments below. Hit the like, subscribe buttons while you're down there. This is Anandan from FTJ, and I'll definitely catch you in the next one. Ciao.